Welcome to Flashpoints. I'm Margaret Brennan in the CBS Newsroom, joined by, once again, Juan Zarate, Senior National Security Analyst here at CBS.
Thanks.
Now, you don't hear a lot about success stories coming out of the awakening in the Middle East, the so-called Arab Spring, but Tunisia has actually made some progress of late.
Yeah, Tunisia, where the Arab Spring started in 2011, has really demonstrated that there's a political way forward. There's a way of reforming a country that doesn't involve factionalism, doesn't involve fighting, and at least for now represents the best example of where the Arab Spring is bearing fruit. You know, we've talked about the Arab Spring melding into the Arab winter with the counter-revolution in Egypt, the fighting in Libya, all of the challenges in Syria, of course. But Tunisia really demonstrates that there can be a political process of moderates sort of working together. And we just saw a parliamentary election this weekend resulting in the secularist party winning and the Islamist party conceding the vote and deciding that they're not going to propose a candidate for the presidential election. Mm-hmm. And so an attempt to really consolidate moderate progress politically and to try to bring Tunisia to a next stage of evolution in the Arab Spring.
Now, what's interesting in many ways about that is in many of these countries coming out of the so-called Arab Spring, one of the few organized groups has been around the Islamist identity. But there's so many different versions of that. What are you seeing in Tunisia?
Well, what's interesting about Tunisia, Margaret, is that the Islamist, the moderates, the Ennahda party that has really tried to be a constructive player in the political dialogue, has tried to distance itself from more extreme elements of Islamist movements and factions. And so what you've had is that the Islamist party, along with the moderates, the secularists, have really gone after the extremists, those who advocate violence, for example, or who are tied to al-Qaeda, or even in some cases now aligned with the Islamic State. They have tried to distance themselves. And so unlike places like Libya, where you've seen a consolidation of the Islamists, from the Muslim Brotherhood all the way to the al-Qaeda types, in Tunisia they've really kept their distance. And what you've also seen is the Islamists have learned the lesson of governance from Egypt. They're trying not to repeat the mistakes of the excesses of the Morsi regime, the Muslim Brotherhood regime in Egypt, and are backing away a bit from too aggressive a posture. They don't want to divide the country at a time when they think there needs to be consolidation. This may all be part of a longer power play for them, but at least for now they're playing by the rules and they're allowing the secularists to really take charge. And that's an interesting, different model from what we've seen in either Libya or Egypt.
So in North Africa, you hear, where Tunisia is, you hear so often about concerns of extremists taking root in Algeria, in Libya, elsewhere. Does this stay a safe haven? What is it about Tunisia that has kept some of the extremist elements on the sidelines and not in power?
Well, I don't want to sugarcoat this because Tunisia does have some problems. There have been attacks in Tunisia. There have also been a number of foreign fighters to the tune of thousands, perhaps even 3,000, that have gone to fight in Syria and Iraq with al-Qaeda, with the Islamic State. So there is a problem in Tunisia of this extremism, but it hasn't bubbled up and it hasn't dominated the politics and certainly hasn't driven sectarian or other political divides like you've seen in other countries. And so I think for Tunisia, you have to see continued political process evolve, a presidential election that is considered legitimate, and then support from external actors, the U.S., the French, and others that want to see this succeed. And part of this is ultimately going to be about economic reforms, because a lot of the Arab Spring, a lot of the grievances, as you know, Margaret, stem from the lack of economic opportunity for the youth in the region. And to the extent that Tunisia can combine both political and economic progress, that's a recipe for success amid a lot of chaos in the region.
And a lot of those kitchen table economic promises still haven't been delivered on.
That's right.
It's something we'll continue to watch. Thank you very much, Juan. Thanks to all of you for watching. This has been Flashpoints.